everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the original and best, and we're entering our 15th year, can you believe it, of covering Rangers. And joining me, David, tonight on the show is, first of all, the Mr. Reliable of Podland, it's Andy McGowan.
I thought you were going to say the other guy there, but that's fine, I'll take that, thanks very much.
Well, no, I wouldn't be able to say that because after some stellar runouts on Patreon, it's a debut for Kev Armstrong. Hello, Kev.
Hello, David. Hello, Andy. Hello, everyone. The good news is Rangers are back. The bad news is Rangers are back.
Well, I think that had we recorded this on Monday, then we might have had a slightly different pod to the one that we're recording tonight, because obviously Rangers then went to Lublin and took on a Dynamo Kyiv side that had battered Partizan the week before, 9-2 on aggregate, 6-2 and 3-0 away. And it looked a really, really tricky fixture. And a non-Rangers supporting friend of mine messaged me today. He says, I thought you guys were really good last night. You know, that was a slick mob, Dynamo Kyiv. And I thought you stood up to it and you grew into the game and deserved the equaliser. And then after a moment, I got another message from him. He went, you're such a weird team. I think that kind of sums it up.
So first of all, non-Ranger supporting friend, David, very, very, very surprised at that. But
well, it's Kilmarnock. I'm from Ayrshire.
I live in Ayrshire and I've not got a single friend that doesn't support Rangers.
You don't have a single friend, full stop. But also you live in Salkits, where if you were to
it's still true.
Also, if you were to live in you live in Salkits, where if you were to meet anybody else who supported another team, it'd be Celtic. Home of Steve Clark. Let's not forget.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
No, there's no snip. There's no. I live in Kilwinning, right? You're not going to out-staunch me. But anyway, get on with it.
What was the question? So you're right. From the outside looking in, it isn't actually a bad perspective to have, because I think we all know that going into this season, patience is a virtue and it's flown the nest a long time ago. So it's actually not a bad thing to take a step back and say, right, well, actually, what would you think if you're only a Rangers fan? Because I think we can be too harsh, but it's probably overdue, because I think for a lot of time, past couple of years, and speaking personally, probably been too forgiving for too much stuff that we've watched and seen happening around the club. We are a weird team, because that game on Saturday, and I know we'll flick between both the Hearts game and the Kyiv game, but there's crossovers, isn't there? Mm-hmm. The game on Saturday, if we're being honest, was coming too soon for us. We've barely got a new signing on the park. The pre-season games weren't exactly filling you with enthusiasm, although there was some promise. The goals in Berlin certainly gave me promise, but equally the defensive shambles was cancelling that out. So you're like, Tynecastle opening day, what were we expecting? I think we were expecting anything, and that's where your pals comment about us being weird is true, because if we'd have got stuffed on Saturday, would it have been a surprise? Maybe no, right? If we'd won on Saturday, would it have been a surprise? Kinda, but no, totally unexpected. So we're in, for such a team that we're familiar with in terms of the players that were in the park, we're in kind of unfamiliar territory, because we don't really know what to expect. Transition doesn't even touch it. We're going to have to find some semblance of form very, very quickly, because we've got big games coming up next Tuesday, obviously Kyiv, if we think it's Celtic's coming up on the horizon. We need to negotiate kind of run-of-the-mill, I say that with inverted commas, Premier League game against Motherwell. That'll be tough, you know. It's not at Ibrox, it's going to be a different dynamic. So, at this moment in time, it's a kind of, what will we find out when the team takes you apart? And even in the game, there's a wild oscillation of great stuff and bad stuff and everything in between.
Yeah, Kev, on that now, if you want to hear us discuss the stadium, folks, it's on our Patreon. We've discussed it all summer long. For a lot of Rangers fans, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because that's not a slight hiccup. That's a catastrophe, really. It's just not being able to play at home is awful. Now I think we're at the shoulder to the wheel stage as fans, and right, we'll go and we'll get behind them. But for me, this first month is game to game, and as Andy mentioned there, we've still got players who'll be going out before the end of the window. Hopefully, we've still got players who'll be coming in before the end of the window. We've got a couple of new players to integrate into the team. For me, I'm not looking too far ahead at the moment. I am just looking game to game and get through this month in as good a position as you possibly can. And then hopefully you're a bit more settled and a bit more ready to go on after the next international break.
100%. Rangers, you need to win every game, but we're not making it easier for the manager right now. There's a lot of plates being spun with, as you say, players that might be on their way out because we want them to go, players that are in the B team taking up a wage that we want to get rid of.
A big wage.
A big wage. Don't do those maths, folks, because it's a lot of money that's sitting. So, as you've seen with bringing the defender in last week, it's a very much a one out, one in sort of situation. I think I described it last night in one of our chats as we've got a squad of squad players. We need some real quality in. And again, last night you're looking at that result going 1-1. We'd all have taken it before kick-off. So it's really good to get that, to bring it back, and we should have enough to get the job done. You're looking ahead to next week saying, who would you play? But you're right, we can't overlook Motherwell. We're in no position to just assume we'll beat Motherwell. Our squad health, well, hopefully in the long run will be better. We're still managing a lot of minutes. We've spoken before about how when Balogun signed, he was in as a backup, and everyone said, well, if he's a backup, that's fine. He can come in here or there, good experience. Now there could be a case, we've not seen a new boy play, so he might be our strongest defender. And again, we need to manage him. So I feel for the manager in a lot of ways because he's not got the squad that he really, really needs or wants. And he's having to mould and use these players still that we know a lot of them aren't good enough. And we've known that a lot of them haven't been good enough for a long while, but he's having to try and qualify for the Champions League with this group of players.
Yeah, it's a tough gig, but it's not an impossible one. And I think that, you know, they demonstrated last night what can happen if you have a good tactical plan, you operate to it and show a bit of quality at time. And that's what Cyriel Dessers' goal was. And they obviously at Tynecastle on Saturday, Rangers lined up and could have won the game. Probably should have in the second half. I thought Hearts were the better team in the first half, if I'm being totally honest. But I thought Rangers were the better team in the second. And I suppose my overriding feeling, and it maybe was based on the summer a little bit, was could have been worse. Which is not, by the way, a healthy attitude and not one I want to be maintaining for a wee while. But I think leading into it, and certainly before Kyiv, I'll admit to this, listeners, I had the fear.
Mm-hmm. That was the same. I was relieved in Saturday, right? And that's obviously not where we want to be as a support, and that's obviously not where we've ever been as a support in terms of what's driven the club on to achieve what it's achieved. But realism kicks in at some point, and the nick that we are in as a squad and rhythm, continuity, players come back for injury, players know at the door, probably suiting the well a wee bit, in the squad, that just doesn't disappear, If your pals we can't well in the dressing room and he's been banished to the B team, that's not something that doesn't get noticed or felt. So Saturday to me was a big test for this squad. But you're right, the second half were actually pretty decent. What I will say about the manager is, you've said it before, Davey, something about the fact that he plays the full 90 minutes in his head beforehand. So when we as fans say, "Oh, that's a rank starting lineup," and blah blah blah, and invariably he uses his subs pretty well. Not always, but pretty well. Last night was a good example because I'm sure we were all shouting, "Where's Danilo?" And they never brought him on. He kept Dessers on, and we seen what happened. But Saturday we created good chances. It's a question of quality for me, right? So we've got loads of things going on, squad depth, players' fitness, all sorts going on. But I think a lot of it is our issues last season and this season so far is down to quality. We're still not taking enough chances. On Saturday, Dessers had 3 great chances. which I can't really criticise him for, because a lot of them were created by himself. He had a lot to do to even get the chance created. But he never finished one of them. There was 3, and he was very unlucky with header, I've got to say. There was the one that he kind of tried to lob the keeper, and then there was the one where he took a ball across the goal, and he really should have finished that. Got to take one of the chances, and that's a recurring theme under Clement, which I think undermines what we think of his style of play. And I don't want to digress too much, but we're hearing a lot about the style of play, and it's not that good. And, pre-season, I'm like, I can't really see it. I cannot see it. There's only one type of football, there's winning football. We know that from Walter Smith, right? Could you tell me what Walter Smith's style of football was? It was nothing but pragmatic, and it depended on opposition and players available. There's a bit of that in Clement, and it will be defined as a success or a failure by effectively our ability to take chances. Drifting back to Parkhead last season, we used the example, we went toe-to-toe with Celtic and we get beat. However, Silva misses 2 gilt-edged chances, and if we score first, then I'll argue MD that there's a fair chance we win that game. Hearts was the same, and then last night I thought it was the same with a couple of good chances, never took them, and then all of a sudden we're a goal down. Rescued at the end. But what I'm trying to say here, Davey, is that I have personally almost complete faith in Clement at this point because of what he did last season. What he took that squad from when he inherited it from Beale to what we nearly did, right? And you can say, nearly, Andy, but what we nearly did, I thought that was as strong a tick in the box for Clement and belief. And I think that's why he's got an extended contract as you can get. And it's too early to start critiquing and pulling it apart and saying, there's no style of play. I think last night was proof positive that there is a plan. It's dependent on the quality in the park. Czerny provided it for Dessers last night, and sometimes that can be the difference between thinking this is a great performance, great set-up, great tactics, and, everything getting flung at the wall. So, fine margins for the judgment calls we're making on Clement and the team at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. And I think one of the issues is because we live this every day as supporters is that we expect to see improvement, the next game. And generally speaking, improvement is an incremental thing. I think we definitely did see an improvement, by the way, game to game. Kev, on the topic of Cyriel Dessers, I said last night that he's an enigma, but he isn't an enigma. I was wrong. And when I thought about it, because you do know what you're going to get from him. What you're going to get is goals. He scores goals. Missed chances. He also misses chances. He has days where I thought he was really good last night, his overall play, and then he'll have days where he struggles to control the ball, he looks lethargic. This is who he is, but he is one of the very few players in that team that carries a goal threat.
He is, and I was thinking about this quite a lot today. I'm far from Dessers' biggest fan, right? Far from it. He frustrates the life out of me, trying overhead kicks and things like that. When
see on that, he reminds me of when we were bringing up my wife's daughter, my stepdaughter, and when she was a teenager. Some days you were really proud of her, and other days I wanted to choke her.
I'm saying nothing.
It wasn't our fault, teenagers. I was a wee arse as a teenager. You're taught, but it's that same mentality of you never know from chance to chance what's going to happen with Cyriel Dessers, but he does keep going and he doesn't let criticism get him down. And to be honest, Kev, I wish we had another 5 or 6 players with his attitude.
His attitude is spot on, right? Spot on. And I was thinking of this today, and I think the issue is that we're not helping him because he's literally the only fit striker we've got that's able to play. So we can't take him out, we can't rotate him, maybe bring him on for 5-10 minutes to cause a bit of chaos, because you're right, and we've spoken about this before, where he doesn't get these chances just by accident. The ball just happens to fall to him. He makes a lot of these chances for himself.
He does.
So I said, we were crying out in January, we said, we're not scoring enough goals, we need another striker. Now, we know Danilo's out, right? And I don't think any of us are on here saying Danilo should be starting by now because he's a long injury. He's going to take time to come back. Fair enough. I thought we would have at least got a loan in or some other striker to help him out, because when you're in the firing line, and we know he has games and spells where he's not good, where the ball bounces off him, he doesn't know where it's going to go, and he does that thing Andy mentioned, Parkhead, right, where he's running through and doesn't shoot, and the crowd get annoyed with him. We can't take him out the firing line and say, let's try Asima or someone else, whoever we've got in the squad, sit in the bench, Cyriel, and we'll bring you on with 20 minutes to go. We can't do that. So if, and we're going to caveat that with if, because we don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, if he's still here, we can guarantee you we'll get goals, but it's, will it be when it really matters? And people will probably be saying, well, it really mattered last night, and it was a good one. It was. But it's games like Tynecastle, we need them to step up. And I say that's where I think we need, as a squad and a club, we need to help them by giving another striker there to maybe go brave and go 2 up front.
But no, I think that's absolutely key, because Cyriel has to carry the line all the time. Whereas I hear comparisons, not in terms of as a player, but people would say, well, Chris Boyd, he would get you these winning goals. You can't rely on Dessers to do it. There were other options when Boyd played at Rangers. You know, the manager could bring other players in, and Cyriel has to do it all pretty much on his own. Whereas I think if you could give him a rest, or you could rotate, or you could make a substitution, because he has to carry the burden pretty much single-handedly. Then yes, I mean, hopefully it's Danilo. Hopefully Danilo comes in, Igaman. We all know the saga that's been about getting him up to speed, but hopefully he can contribute. Because if you've got Dessers as one of your options, Andy, I think that you'd be fairly satisfied with him as one of your 3 frontline strikers.
So going into this season, I was pretty firm in my mind that if we went in with Dessers, we're not going to achieve what we want to achieve. And it's based on, not based on his goal scoring. His goal scoring is very respectable last season, 22, 23 goals or whatever it is without penalties. That's good. That's better than what we've had go before it for the last 5-6 seasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just have a major problem with his hold-up play, and I think it compromises the whole team, because we don't get up and it affects the number 10, and we've not exactly got a lot of legs breaking through anyway. So I had a major problem with that, and especially against Celtic. I think if we have to tackle Celtic, we need to get somebody that can match up physically to the likes of Carter Vickers, right? So that was my issue with Dessers.
That was the case with Boyd, remember, back in the day.
He never played against Celtic.
Because it was a different style of game needed. And that's what I mean, though. Because Dessers has to play in games that maybe don't suit him. Mm-hmm. If we had other options, you wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah. So, double-edged sword here. See if we had other options, I think he'd be out the door by now, because what has been the making of him has been the necessity to persevere with him. And I'll be honest, he's probably cemented his play. I think unless we get a really, really good offer for him, he's not going to go anywhere, because you need to replace the goals with a fair bet, and it would need to be like that Shanklin or something like that. I want to see him, as you say, effectively 2 up front. Lawrence last night did wee bits, but the power in the legs isn't there. He's not a striker. He's a midfielder, push forward. I'd like to see him with another striker that can drop deep. I would love to see Dessers play with Morelos, for example, because Morelos is, I think that's what we're all harking for. We're harking for a centre forward that can occupy a full defence physically. Dessers is never going to be that. He is kind of wily in the box, and I think if we had somebody else that could take that physical aspect on just a wee bit deeper, hold the ball up, I think we'd probably get even more out of Dessers. So I've been scathing of him, I really have, and I've tried to not be two-faced about it, but I'll tell you one thing, as you said, Davey, I respect him completely, because he has come through a shitstorm. Playing at Rangers isn't easy at the best of times, but what he came through last season and what he contributed, and he's obviously got something mentally that, as you say, I wish the whole squad had it, because if the whole squad had his mental strength and focus and ability to overcome and resilience, we would have no problems whatsoever. So I think last night he mentioned something that would be nice to get a wee bit of recognition. I think it's fair for him at this point to get a wee bite back. Do you know that? And it might be, and don't quote me on this, because in Saturday we might be shouting and bawling, but it might be time to accept him for his strengths as opposed to what his deficiencies are, and then look to the rest of the team. Because let's face it, there's not enough goals in the team. you look through the
other guys in
whole
the team aren't contributing enough. And you go,
Nowhere near
this
it.
has been the case for years. You know, it was Morelos and Tav, then it was just Tav, and now it's
Dessers. You take him out of the
Dessers.
team, we've got a major problem.
You know, the rest of the team need to weigh in with a lot more goals. On that, Kev, last night, I think, in fact, I know, when Rangers fans saw this team, my reaction, I think, was mirrored. I don't think my reaction was unusual. It was like, really? Because I just, you know, when you saw the wide players, for example, but as Andy said, you know, the manager had a plan, and in the end that it's worked. But I think that Scott Wright, for example, is a player who has almost now become emblematic of the bad squad building at Rangers. This is not his fault. And by the way, folks, this isn't a dig at Scott Wright, because he doesn't pick himself. Managers have picked him and continue to use him. But he was taken off again last night at half-time after not contributing. He didn't do much on Saturday either. And to me, that's indicative of the fact that you're having to play him, shows you the level of squad building, or rather not squad building, that's taken place the last 3 years. We badly need to upgrade the wide positions.
We do. I think the manager's spoken about how, and various tactic people have spoken about how important the wingers are to the way the manager wants to set up the team. And with Scott Wright there, you're not going to get the best out of that. Scott Wright's a funny one, right? He's never going to be good enough to be a Rangers starter. This is probably harsh. Nothing personal against the boy. He's living all our dreams playing for Rangers.
He's not. He's had chances. This is not a case of a guy who's not had opportunities. He's had opportunities. He's not taken them. And I think by common consent, most Rangers fans would agree with you.
You would. I spoke about a squad of squad players earlier, right? He's a squad player. Like, see if he was to play in the early parts of the Cup, tick that Scottish box for us, he could quite easily hide for a couple of seasons and nobody would bother. It's the fact that we're having to rely on him and go to him in these big games. I think I've seen a stat, and I've not checked out, but he started the first game of the last 3 seasons for us, right? So he's had plenty of chances. And we've all spoken about the cycle of where he goes away for a while, injured, dropped, whatever, has a cameo appearance or a game and he does something quite good, and you go, right, okay, he should start, and then he starts and he just fades away, and as you say, more often than not, he's subbed at half-time. And I say it's not a slight on the boy, it's more a slight on the fact that we're having to go back to this guy who, like we said at the start, isn't good enough. And I say it's unfair, and last night, he's a poor right winger. We put him at left wing, he wasn't very good there. Yilmaz wasn't very good last night, and he wasn't offering any protection. That ball was on all the time until Hefty came on, and Hefty made a decent start to his Rangers career. I'm not going to include the friendlies, right? They don't really count. But I think most of us were quite surprised by him, and he done more in the first 5-6 minutes than Wright had done the full 45.
That was a positive, Andy. Jeffy coming on, and as Kev says, first of all, he helped lock down that left-hand side, because I agree with him, Yilmaz didn't play well last night, but in the first half, there was a lot of danger down there. There wasn't in the second, and Jeffy was a big part of that. But he was also very good going forward.
So we were talking about his quality, and not to continue the kind of Scott Wright diatribe, but when was the last bit of game-changing quality you've seen for Scott Wright? So this, I don't even think he's a squad player, because I don't expect him to come off the bench and do anything and deliver. You can be an average player with one bit of quality in you, like a cross-bar or something like that, and still contribute far more than what he is. And the thing with Jefty, I'm going to call him Jefty, right? Because I'm not calling him Hefty. My daughter's got an imaginary
friend. It's not Hefty, it's Jefty.
Like good. Kind of I'm glad to hear that, because Hefty is my daughter's imaginary friend. Juventus. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's Jefty.
Aye. Hefty, no, Jefty suits me perfectly.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Good. Watched him against Berlin. Defensively, you're like, Jesus. That was bad with back post boys, but he was all over the place, right? Which can happen. He's 20-year-old Brazilian playing for Rangers, had a season or something in Cyprus, right? It can happen. He might not be up to speed defensively. And at that game, you could see he had forward qualities. He carries the ball, he kind of moves into the inside channel, he could also cross the ball, and I thought, there's something there. I wonder if he can play further up the park. So when he came on last night and he was in front of Yilmaz, I was like, good, this means that's something that's in the manager's thinking, because I keep going back to it, quality. He looks from the small snippets we've had pre-season and then last night, like the best crosser about the club already, right? And
statistically, from his previous club, obviously, he does have a very high cross accuracy.
Wicked kind of dipping ball onto the header Dessers for that chance he had, and I cannot get enough of players that might be limited but are able to do that kind of thing. Right? We've seen it with other players the world over. The one that strikes me is the boy for Frankfurt. Remember when the left winger that went to Juventus? Can't remember his name. Costes, was it? Anyway, pretty average player, but his left foot was amazing, right? And we need as much as we can of game-changing quality in our squad. And I really, really hope that he is an option for that further forward. I don't think he's going to do left back based on what I've seen him defending, right? Maybe at home against lower level teams, but talking about Dessers, feeding him with balls like that is much better than what we're talking about he gets most of the time, which is the man at his back and having to take the ball into his feet or stuff like that. I would love to see more balls like that coming in. So he's 20-year-old. Just as you can't write him off after a couple of games, you can't class him as a superstar after a couple of games. Let's let him settle in, see how it transpires for him. We could have a wee gem, we could have a dud. It's too early to say, but what I would like to see is that the fans appreciate that one thing that we can see, which is quality and his technical ability crossing the ball at the very least. And moving with the ball at his feet, I thought he showed that last night again.
Yeah, and Kev, I think that when you arrive at a club, you need to give the fans something early on. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to be absolutely brilliant every week at the start. That helps, but you need to give them something. And the positive for me last night was that the new signings it featured did, and that we've just praised Jefté there, and I think he deserved it. I think he played a big part in the victory. He's involved in the goal as well. Czerny, who didn't have a great game when he came on, but then delivered a sublime cross for the goal. So that gives you a wee bit of something to kind of hang on to. And I think Conor Barron generally has had a pretty solid start to his Rangers career. And it just helps to get off to a decent start. You don't, as I say, have to be an absolute superstar straight out the traps. It would be lovely if one of them was. But just give the fans something to go, right, that's why we've bought him.
100%. Jefté, I think I'd like to see him in corners. Because I don't think Yilmaz's corners have been that good.
Yilmaz is hitting corners from there because he's left-footed, let's be honest, not because he's got great delivery, so yeah, I'd agree with that.
And maybe Ben Davies wasn't playing last night, so he wasn't there to hit them. You're right, Czerny's not really up to speed. I think we can all see that. I think he's a couple of weeks behind, but like you say, when you sit in a press conference and you say, I'm here to deliver goals and assists, and then you deliver an assist the next game, you're like, right, that's fair enough. Let's see some more of them. And I think he will get better. The more our team understand what he does, what he likes to do. He spoke a lot about getting one-on-one with a wing-back and really going at him. Brilliant. We're all for that. So yeah, that's something that will grow. And you're right, I think the first two games of the season, probably Conor Barron was better man of the match in both of them. He sort of picked up, and I don't know how this will go down, but sort of where Lundstrom sort of left off, that sort of role just in front of the back four, coming and getting the ball, driving forward with it, and he looks a really good addition. We spoke on our post-match pod on Patreon at the weekend, and we said that he was the one that really looked like a Rangers player against Hearts. He was brilliant in that, not scared to have a shot on his weak foot as well. Really impressive, and like Andy says, like I try and give new signings 10, 15 games before you really judge them. But like we've been talking about, it's good when you can sort of say, right, okay, he's got a ton of pace, or he can beat a man, or he can score a goal, or like Conor Barron, just he strolls about that midfield as if he's been there for ages, and it's good to see because we all like a good Scottish core at Rangers.
Yeah, there's maturity about his play that I like, and he has just arrived and brought a wee bit of energy into the middle of the park. And if there is an area of the team that I do have concerns about, it is the defence. And Saturday I thought we looked pretty shaky. I thought that when Balogun came on, we looked a bit better. Now, we've obviously signed a centre-back, which might help it. John Souttar, I don't know if it's the old cliche of the shirt's too big or whatever, but I don't think he's ever shown really the form that he'd shown at Hearts. Davis, I just don't think physically he got bullied on Saturday in that match, and I thought really struggled. At fullback, Yilmaz hasn't started the season particularly well. And James Tavernier, a lot of speculation on his future, whether or not he's going to be at Rangers long term. I was concerned. I thought his form dropped off a cliff at the end of last season. And my worry with him is that it's an age thing. Now, you do have Dujon Sterling there. Sterling came on last night and I thought was very good, actually, but in that midfield role that we've seen him in. And there is an argument that that is his real position now. What are your thoughts? Are we pinning just basically hopes that Proper comes in and sorts it? We have, of course, lost Connor Goldson, who was previously, if you like, the organiser in that back line. What are your thoughts?
Never clapped eyes in Proper in my life, to be honest, right? So it's unrealistic to think that on paper a 30-year-old boy playing for 20, it's never been picked up before by a bigger league, is going to come in and absolutely transform the back four. I think he'll improve it given the qualities that he's supposed to have, right? And we've signed him for a reason, but I think it's unrealistic for him to take away all the fears we've got just now when we watch that, right? I think we need another centre half. I think realistically we need to see Davies go before we go there, before we get one, because he'll be on a big wage. Suter for me is a third choice now. So ever since Gerrard, we've had 4 centre halves, right? 2 have usually been the first choice, and then there have been 2 rotators. For me, Suter is a third choice, and I'm a wee bit disappointed that I'm saying that because I had high hopes for him. Good passer of the ball, physically strong, excellent at air. There's something that just keeps him from being a top-class defender that we should be looking to develop and selling for big money. It was kind of shown last night with that goal. He get kind of caught out. There's just too many times where I'm like, that goal, he's not quite where he should be or whatever. And I might be being hypercritical here, but that kind of thoughts went through my head too often now. And I'm disappointed in him.
Sorry to cut across you, but it's the back. Yeah, I mean, that goal, Yilmaz losing the ball there.
Aye, terrible.
Big mistake. Barron dives in, bit of inexperience there. But my problem with Suter at the goal was that he might as well not have been there because he doesn't affect it. And to me, it's like brain freeze. One, he doesn't go and block the cross, and he doesn't stay with the man in the middle. And he's too. We've seen him before. I think that's brain freeze. And is that a confidence issue then? Because I think he gets caught between should I do this or do that, and in the end does neither.
Aye.
And he's a better player than that.
I think it's just his makeup. I think when you get to the age he is, it's very hard to pick up that in game decision making, split second decision making. I think it's just part of his makeup. So I don't want to lay into him, right, because I think he's got a role to play, and I'm not lamenting the fact that he's more or less our first choice centre half at this moment in time, and who knows, he might be playing with Proper as the first choice too. But I do think we need 2 centre halves, Proper one of them and then another one. But we need to move Davis. Davis, to be honest, Christ, and Saturday against Hearts, I thought it was embarrassing that
he got ragdolled.
That's the word, and for a centre half in this league to be taken off because you can't handle the 1-to-1 duel that you have been assigned. Let's face it, Vargas is not like he was playing against Lyndon Dykes or
absolutely.
Big Nubly or something. It was running power and balls into channels, and he could not handle it. And it wasn't a surprise to me because all the bad moments we've had with Davis since he joined us have been similar. Weakness at Parkhead, and no clearing your lines, trying to play football, he shouldn't be playing football, bring it down. He's no my idea of centre half, put it that way. And he's not going to make it at Rangers. He's not going to get any better. He's not all of a sudden going to inherit some kind of Rich Vena form. That is the player he is. And if you've not got the aggression and you've not got the strength, the 2 things are going to curtail your ability, the level you can get to at Rangers. We need to get rid of him. Easier said than done, right? But if we're holding out for, I don't know, a couple of mil or whatever the figure is, I hope we revisit it and cut our losses because another quality centre half would make things a lot better. Yilmaz, I don't have many fears about him because I think he's got a good mentality. I think I'm delighted to see him on the park at the end of games now for a change, right? With sweat dripping off him, that's not something I've seen before because you're getting injured. He can play with the ball at his feet in tight positions, nowhere near the quality of Barisic, right? So we always used to moan about Barisic, but that quality and cross ball, it's just not there. Occasionally you'll get a good ball from him. And Tav, he's kind of ran his course, but we need to be very careful that getting rid of him is only as clever as what we replace him with. And Sterling's great, engine, strength, power, no get the same quality. And for me, he has to play midfield more often than not because I think that is central to your chances of success this year. I don't know if Clement shares that viewpoint on Sterling, to be honest.
Kev, I want to talk about the goal that Rangers scored last night. We've talked about the goal we conceded. It was a bad one. But the goal we scored was excellent. First of all, there's only 30 seconds left, and it would have been understandable had Rangers gone, right, 1-0 is not a terrible result, take them back to Glasgow, albeit the wrong part of the south side, but we'll take them back there and get the result. But instead of that, Tav, intelligent throw, brilliant layoff from Cyriel Dessers, by the way, absolutely lovely touch into Tom Lawrence, and more importantly, he doesn't just lie there because he's been taken down as he's been doing it, but he gets up and he gets himself into the box. Tom Lawrence clips a lovely pass, very intelligent pass, out to Jefty. Now, at this point, I thought, we've got a 4-on-3, but watching it back, we didn't. They had the numbers back. Rangers actually carved them open from here, which is Jefty looks up, doesn't just, which is a pet hate of mine, loft it, hopefully, and so the goalie can come and take it. He finds Václav Cherny with the ball. Now, Cherny gets a bad bounce, actually, but retrieves it and then produces an absolutely superb cross, just delivered right where any striker wants it. And Dessers does something that I criticise, not just him, by the way, modern forwards for, which is get to the front post. Get to the front post. Time your run and get to the front post. It is conditional on having somebody that has the quality to deliver the ball for you. I accept that. But as a striker, if you get in there, then if someone produces a ball, it takes the defender right out of play. This is a goal that I think is dependent on 5 or 6 things happening perfectly, and 5 or 6 things did. And I think we really deserve a bit of credit for this one.
Andy spoke about goals in Berlin as well, and throughout pre-season there's been a lot of negatives, but there has been some glimmers of hope and good bits of play. And you're right that this was one of them, the way this goal came about. We spoke about Dessers a lot earlier on, and perhaps it's frustrating because he can do these things, but he just doesn't do them often enough. It's a great layoff, brilliant. Yep. Sometimes he's guilty of holding the ball in and trying to beat 3 men. No, just move it on, move the ball. We're countering at pace.
But then get up and go. Don't just lie there admiring it.
And because that's
which is what he did.
We don't do often enough. It's attack at pace. Yep. When we either, as you say, you have a man advantage or you think you have, right? We attack at pace, and you're right, again, if the ball takes a sort of awkward bounce, we don't panic, we don't say, poor us, and go back the way, which we've seen before. And it's a brilliant ball in, perhaps because he was fouled a wee bit. That's why Dessers is late into the box and is late arriving. And it's so hard to defend that when someone's arriving late like that, because you can't really anticipate it at the same time. It's a great ball from the left footer, and it's a horrible area to defend at the best of times.
Yeah, it is.
And I say, because if that goes back to Tav, right, Tav floats over the ball. We've seen that 100 million times.
Well, defender's
before.
Facing it then, isn't he?
Yeah. So it's hard to defend, and that's what we want, and this is what we're looking for. And I say, all credit to Big Cyriel. I say I'm far from his biggest fan, but he doesn't chuck it, he doesn't huff. You're right, he could have so easily lay down, holding his knee or something, saying, poor me, poor me.
Or just lay down and say, I've done my bit, I've flicked it on and we're on the counter.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I thought Tom Lawrence had been subbed about 10 minutes before this because he was knackered. But he plays his part in this goal as well, so credit where it's due. A great goal, and it could be vital in this tie. But yeah, at that point in the game, you take a goal anyway. It was quite nice to see us score a really good goal because there's been a lot of negatives about the club the last couple of weeks, and this is definitely a positive.
Yeah, Andy, on that then, to a slightly kind of bigger topic, I joked, half joked, last night that when the goal went in, it felt like the first nice thing that had happened to us as Rangers fans for months. Genuinely, it really did. And I'm hoping Far too early to tell, by the way, folks, but I am hoping that this goal we can look back on and say that was a very important goal. Obviously, in the context of the tie, it's huge, and it's in the Champions League, it's big, so it's a big, big, big goal. And psychologically, I think we ran back for kick-off, they kicked off and the ref blew. I mean, it was really that late in the game. Nothing in football feels like that, a goal at that point, an important goal at that point. I'm kind of hoping that, everybody today has been a wee bit cheerier. Nobody, by the way, is fooled that the stuff we've discussed is solved by this. I mentioned this in another show. I really don't like the phrase, that goal, it papered over the cracks. No, it didn't. Everyone knows the cracks are still there, right? We're not stupid. But it did slightly change the mood, which has been, as Kev says, quite down, quite negative. I've been guilty of it, and I'll admit that, because it's kind of hard to escape, and because there was a lot of stuff going on, you're like, I don't like this. But if they can take that, get a victory on Saturday, we have a run of home, in inverted commas, games coming up, and just maybe start to build a wee bit of momentum and just flip the script a bit.
That's a dream. Building a team, because Clement's deliberately using the word rebuild in every single post-match he's done, certainly the last 2 games obviously, but even in the previous season he was using that word. And the belief and everything that comes with having a new team and all the component parts of a team that can actually achieve something doesn't happen overnight, and it's unrealistic to think that it can. But it's accelerated by small moments. I'm saying a small moment like that last night was a big moment in the context of the game.
Huge.
But when we get to the end of the season, look back, it'll be a smaller moment. That would have felt a victory last night to the team. Certainly felt a victory to me when the full-time whistle went, given where we were. And they've got to take belief from it. But it's a question of consistency. We're going to have a young team for this whole season, regardless of who we sign, right? There's going to be a lot of youngsters coming in. We're talking about Gefty, we're talking about Egaman, we're talking about Connor Barron, even Yilmaz, Diomande. We sometimes forget how young they are because they were purchased. And there will be moments when form dips and everything else. This is why we need experience. This is why I will have no issue if we go out and sign a couple of players that are the wrong side of 30. I think it's a necessity, to be quite honest, to get players like that. You've seen the influence in Yarmolenko last night on that team.
Yeah.
So it matters just now because it helps us get into the next game with more belief than we would have had if we'd came back with a defeat. But it's got to be built upon. So we need to win on Saturday against Motherwell. Doesn't matter if it's 1-0 or 7-0. Just win the game first and foremost. See what happens next Tuesday, because it'll be a tough game. They're a team that we would have taken care of at any point under Gerrard, and even last season under Beale. I think we would have taken care of them, no bother. Just now it's a different kettle of fish just because of where we're at. But if we can get through there, then a bit of money comes in, first of all. It'll change the dynamic slightly in terms of signing options, regardless whether we get Champions League or no. And then who knows what happens if we get Salzburg. It looks like we'll be in better shape by then again, because we'll be 3, 4, 5 weeks further down the line. And we've got to carry that. And you said they're papering the cracks. I hate that phrase and all, because it's like you're always going to have cracks, right? And actually the job is to paper over them, because we're not going to have perfect players, we're not going to have a perfect team, but we need to get the right components. And this is why I keep droning on about quality. If we've got a player like Tavernier who, we're talking about him as if he's completely done, but once he gets his fitness up a wee bit, he can still deliver a bit of quality, which I would rather have over the likes of Sterling. Different player completely, but you get what I'm saying here. If you get in the final third, do you want Sterling putting the ball into Dessers, or do you want Tavernier? There's no question about it, right? So it's that kind of concept I'm talking about. I know I'm focusing on they two, but I think we just need to make sure that we stay with the team, allow them to develop, accept that there's going to be mistakes in the game more often than we would like. And it's about that incremental improvement that you spoke about. Hopefully we've got it up to a degree that we can give a good account of ourselves at Parkhead, because what we don't want is we get this incremental increase and then we go to Parkhead and get a wee bit of slap in the arse, which is possible because they they've got the gift of continuity, and they seem to be motoring. But the script's there to be written, and this is what I like about Clement. He will be believing that we can turn the tide and we can do things that are not expected of us. Who knows, Davey? It might be perversely the lack of optimism. It's not even a lack of optimism. The just complete dearth of any belief in the support is a wee bit of a blessing, because it's a different kind of pressure. It's not as intense. You think back to Kilmarnock last year in the first game of the season. What did we expect that day? We expected to have something special after all the money it was spent and all the new players were ready and they were in the team, and then, it just killed that. It basically killed the season when we look back at it. So maybe the fact that we've got lesser expectations and a realistic kind of acceptance, maybe that's just the wee bit of give that the club and the squad and Clement needs at this point. I don't see that as dropping standards. Some people characterise it as that. I don't. I see it as being a sensible, knowledgeable football fan. What we're watching just now, it's not realistic to expect us to go out and win every single game in great fashion. It's just not possible. We're going to have kicks in the arse along the road here.
Yeah, I'm not sure I buy into the fact that the expectations are more realistic now, but certainly
more forgiving. So what I'm saying is we've accepted a draw at Tynecastle, and then we
I know what you're saying. I don't think we have accepted the draw at Tynecastle. I think that people were plenty annoyed by it, but I think that I know what you mean, but I'm just not sure that it's entirely true. But anyway, that will do us for this week here on Heart and Hand. We're not talking about the Motherwell game because Cammy will be here later in the week, folks, with Heart and Hand Extra, and he will preview that game in some detail. So I'd just like to thank our producers Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and thank my two splendid guests tonight. Kev, solid debut.
Thank you, lad. Thank you, Andy. I'm not sure I agree with that last one, but we'll go with it.
Well, that's your first pod, mate. Shut it.
Yeah, exactly. He's the senior lad in here, right? You're just new in this dressing room. Shut the fuck up. Right? Know your place, bitch. And, of course, Andy McGowan.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening, folks. And, of course, you can catch up with us every single day over in Heart and Hand and Patreon. It's just 50p a week, so go to patreon.com/Heart and Hand. If not, I'll be back on Saturday on YouTube. Until then, folks, have a great week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.